the southern residents.
Vessel disturbance is considered one of the 3 main threats to the endangered southern resident killer whales. It affects their behavior and their ability to eat. But there are very few regulations in place to keep whales safe around boaters. And even the most positive guidelines are just that, guidelines. I spent a day on the water with Sound Watch, a boater education program, as they actively ran interference between vessels and whales. And I walked away from that day wondering, what would have happened if Sound Watch wasn't there?
Hi, how are you guys doing?
It's a conversation Taylor Shed has hundreds of times each summer.
We're Sound Watch, part of the Whale Museum here on San Juan Island, and we're just out here doing boater education. Just wanted to let you know that there are some actual transient whales right here in front of you.
Reaching thousands of recreational boaters with this message.
So I'm sure you guys are familiar with the regulations. It's 200 yards around, 400 in front, and we're asking that for a guideline that we stay under 7 knots within a half mile of the whales.
But in 2017, Sound Watch data shows just 31% of recreational boaters knew the rules.
What is either the rule or protocol around how close a recreational boater can get?
Perfect. I have a brochure for you to have here. Yes.
That brochure contains this map and a list of Be Whale-Wise guidelines. But most of it, including slow speed zones, are merely suggestions.
How you guys doing? Good? Nope.
And not everybody wants to hear it.
We're not enforcement. I can't ask people to stop what you're doing, that kind of thing. We can only do education.
And run interference.
Be careful, I'm gonna get this boat.
When boaters cut through the bubble of whale watch boats and right over the backs of whales, sometimes forcing Sound Watch into the bubble to cut them off.
All I have to do is turn broadside and show them that it says Sound Watch and see the flags, and then he turned. And he's not gonna talk to us.
But he turned just in time.
Sound Watch shut down.
As 2 humpback whales come to the surface.
But then those whales showed up right where that boat would have been if they didn't change direction. So, that's what we do, is we mitigate risk away from the whales.
That risk is much greater when enforcement is not around. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife polices the waters, but incidents against whales spike across all vessel types when they are not on scene. The biggest change in behavior comes from recreational boats and Canadian whale watch boats.
There are major gaps that we need to try and fill.
Russ Mullins is a sergeant with WDFW. On a typical summer day, they have 1 boat out patrolling roughly 8 hours. But a day watching whales can last twice as long.
We need to be aggressive at this point, and more enforcement assets on the water are very important, because it's like the trooper in the median. Even people that aren't speeding still have a tendency to slow down.
But more enforcement and education takes more funding for WDFW and for Sound Watch. It's a point Mullins communicates to the governor's Orca task force members he has on board. The task force is considering which boater rules to recommend to keep southern residents safe.
My concern is that these actions and all these resources are being put into reinventing the wheel when a lot of that already exists and is already being educated.
Educated, but not enforced.
They are guidelines, so you're right, they're not enforceable. If they were to become law, then they could be enforceable, which would be much better.
But only if they have the resources to do it. Now, one of the recommendations the task force is considering is making this slow speed zone about half a mile from the whales mandatory. It's a guideline the Pacific Whale Watch Association already abides by, but data shows the main offenders across all guidelines are recreational boaters. So if you're out on the water and you see whales, along with slowing down, you should also stay over here to their side. Don't chase from behind, don't get in front in their path. And if you end up closer than the mandatory 200 yards away, shut down your engine until they pass. You can find even more Be Whale-Wise guidelines